Good afternoon. Welcome to the Get Kinected podcast. My name is Harold Riemer, the Dean of the Faculty of Kinesiology and Health Studies at the University of Regina. And behind the scenes is producer Skyla, she's smiling right now. She's doing a wonderful job. You may be wondering, why is Harold wearing shorts? It is October the 9th, I think. 10th today, yes. October 10th, but it's actually pretty nice. It's 2024, for those of you who are wondering. Anyway, I'm excited to have a wonderful guest with me today. As you know, this podcast is intended to introduce people. Man, I got to think that through. Introduce people to interesting students, faculty, staff, guests in the Faculty of Kinesiology and Health Studies at the U of R. So today I have with me a very interesting guest, someone I've known for some time, Elise Melanson. Elise, say hi.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be deemed interesting, so I'll take it.
Hey, you are interesting. So actually, if you go on our KHS website, you will actually see a video that Elise was the subject of. One of the students in SRS 132 did that a number of years ago. So we're going to update that a little bit. And so Elise, let's begin by telling people a little bit about where you're from, background, that kind of stuff.
I am from Moose Jaw, so basically Regina.
Oh, don't say that.
Close enough. I mean, in terms of about me generally, I love working out, which will come up with my research, with my school, with everything. I love school, like genuinely. I always say, like, when I'm introducing myself to a class, I'll be like, oh, tell me something that you like to do for fun. And then it comes to me and I'm like, I genuinely like doing school for fun. Like, it's fun to me. I grew up in Moose Jaw. I went to the University of Calgary for a couple years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Half my undergrad, about half of it was from U of C. And then I took a break because it was a little too hard for me.
Okay.
Because I went right out of high school, and I don't think I was mature enough yet for university. And then I took a break, and then I decided to come back to the U of R, and it was much easier because the U of R is easier, because I was more mature and I was more considerate and like ready to put in the work that it would take to actually do well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to explore that a little bit in the sense that, do I sound like a qualitative researcher yet?
Yeah, you're getting there, yeah.
Anyway, let me explore that a little bit. So where'd you go to high school in Moose Jaw?
I went to Vanier.
Vanier. See, I found out last week there are 4 high schools in Moose Jaw, which surprised me, actually.
People assume there's only one. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But I didn't think there'd be 4. Okay, so you went to Vanier. And then what made you choose to go to the U of C, and what did you study at the U of C?
So I wanted to be a personal trainer initially. I just have always been really into working out since I think I started when I was about 14. And then ever since I started, it was just kind of like, that is what I'm doing. Something to do with that is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I went to U of C specifically because I just wanted to get away from where I grew up. I wanted a new experience, which is funny now because I was settled down where I grew up. And I studied, I think the program at the time was called Exercise Physiology. So pretty close to what I ended up taking here, Human Kinetics.
Okay. And so did you transfer that credit back here? Or?
Yes. Yeah, most of my credits transferred, if not all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And so when you came back to the U of R, you went into human kinetics, and your goal was still to be a personal trainer?
Yeah, personal trainer or physiotherapy. As most people, it seems, in human kinetics are kind of going towards physiotherapy. But then when I did my honors, then I realized, A, that I really liked like the social side of kinesiology, and then B, that I really liked research. And that's what brought me to my
So,
master's.
so what got you to even consider an honors degree? Because like a lot of students don't go down that path at all.
Yeah, I didn't even know really that our faculty had honors offered. And I was just having a conversation. I worked at a gym at the time. I was having a conversation with a friend, and he was seeing a new girl, and he was saying, I want to take her on a date to the gym, but she's like way too scared. She like won't come with me. And we were talking about how common that experience is, that
Like
women don't want to
going
go
on
to the
a
gym.
date to the gym
Well, no,
is a
that
common experience?
That is common. That is
Are you
com-
serious?
Yes, in my circles, yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure about my wife wouldn't even come with me now.
Yeah. So yeah, the reason she gave was that she was too scared to go to a gym, and
Okay.
so then we started talking about how he's had so many conversations with so many friends that are women that are too scared to go to the gym, and I was kind of thinking about like, what could I do about that? Like, how could I make it more accessible? And at the time, my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he was doing an honors in psychology. And I was like, that sounds really neat. And I feel like I could do these two things at one time. So I looked into it and reached out to Lorena, and because I looked at all the faculty, and I was like, who would be best equipped to look at gender and gyms? And she seemed
Okay.
like she would be the best. So I reached out to her, and then we've been working together since.
Okay, so just to clarify, when you said the social side of kinesiology, you're not referring to parties or that kind of stuff.
No, I'm talking more about the social interactions, social determinants of health, more those aspects.
Those
Yeah.
sorts of things. Okay, so you went and you decided to do your honors degree, or the honors degree. And so explain just exactly, I mean, I know the answer to this question, but explain what that involves effectively.
Yeah, so an honors is kind of like a mini master's in some ways. You find or have an opportunity to like apply what you learned in your degree to a very specific topic, and it's more independent. And so you write a proposal for your research, a literature review, so you read everything that there is about it, and then you carry out a smaller research project and then write a thesis on it. So I did that specifically on how women's experiences in gyms are impacted by the gendered nature and specifically like the prevalence of men and masculinity in the space in comparison to the amount of women and femininity.
Okay. And so some people are wondering, wow, that seems like a lot of work. Was it a lot of work?
I mean, you're definitely signing up to do more than your degree, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's that. But generally, you're going to pick a topic that you're really interested in,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't feel like a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but you are reading stuff that is interesting to you. You're working on a project that's interesting to you. So to me, at least, keep in mind that I like school and I do it for fun. It didn't feel like a lot of work in a negative sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some people are probably going to ask, and I remember having kind of misconceptions about what a thesis is, and most people would think, oh, that's a really, really long document. How long was your thesis?
It doesn't have to be too long in your honors. I actually don't know how long my honors thesis was. I don't know how to answer that.
So,
I don't
so
know.
well, how would you describe an honors thesis to the average person who doesn't know, like, what are there parts to it, or?
Yeah, so essentially it is like a really long written assignment that is pretty thorough on what specifically you're writing about. So you'll write about why that topic that you're exploring is important, what is known about it already in previous literature, and then what you did to kind of add to that literature. So what research you did, like what your actual research plan was, and then you talk about what you found from that research plan, and then go a little bit into, again, why that's important and how it contributes to literature.
Okay.
At least mine had that kind of format.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's not unfair. Often, sometimes describe it to even grad students that you're writing 4 or 5 little mini papers, effectively.
Yeah, it's easier to digest when you think of it that way instead
Yeah.
of just one big, huge assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you find in your honors thesis?
Yeah. So
How would you sum that up?
it was a lot that I did find, so it's kind of hard to summarize it. But the main points essentially is that women in the gym perceive it as being gendered in nature. So the physical space, the exercises, the behaviors, what is acceptable to do in the space, all of those things are kind of categorized based on gender, at least perceived to be categorized by women. And those categorizations, in turn, disproportionately limit their experiences. So the exercises that they feel that they can do or the spaces that they feel like they can enter comfortably, those kind of things. And then in addition to that, the common interactions between men and women are very limited, so they don't interact a ton, and the interactions they do have, the women perceive them to be quite negative. So primarily that was being stared at or being approached by men or being followed around the gym by them. And so when they think about entering the space, if they have entered the space before, they're kind of thinking about the fact that they're entering with this increased mental load, having to navigate how they're going to kind of ignore these advances from these men to stay comfortable while having limited spaces that they feel like they can enter comfortably. So it just adds to how difficult it is for them to access the space once they enter it.
Okay. So did you have any recommendations? Like if you're going to make a recommendation to a private gym or even our gym, FLC, what would you recommend we do differently?
I mean, tangibly, I don't have anything like very specific. What I can say on that note is a lot of people think maybe a good recommendation would be like segregation, so having like a women's only space. I think in terms of getting women into the gym, that probably would be helpful, but I think it's not helpful for like the larger social problem that is being reflected with these experiences. So if we segregate men and women in these spaces, it's not going to improve anything outside of them, essentially. So probably not that. But I do think that something that would help is something that cultivates like a sense of community amongst women, because a lot of the women say that they would enter the space really intentionally trying to look unapproachable so that men wouldn't talk to them. But then as a result, they were also saying, every time I try and interact with other women, I feel nervous because they look like they don't want to talk to me. So there's no sense of really community between the women.
Oh, really?
So maybe if there was something that facilitated that so that it would like develop relationships, then in the space they would feel more comfortable just because there's, like strength in numbers, and they'd be able to demand the space or take demand of the space more effectively because there's more of them there and comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. So, did you do your field work before or after your project?
That's a good question. I did my field work while I was writing my thesis.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, when you said a lot of work, I thought about that time period. That was a lot of work doing both of those at the same time.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
yeah.
So where did you end up doing your field work at?
I did my field work at Growing Young Movers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And why that? I'm curious.
Well, I was kind of limited in my options because your field work obviously has to apply to the major that you chose.
Yeah.
And at that point, I already knew that I was kind of more interested in the social aspects,
Yeah.
but yet I was in human kinetics, so my options were kind of more geared towards human kinetics.
Okay.
So a lot of my options were like physio or something of that nature, which I wasn't super interested in anymore. So I was trying to find something that I could bring kind of my major in, but also would have that social side that I could learn about as well. And Growing Young Movers is an after-school program in Scott Collegiate, and they have it's kind of difficult to explain because there's different parts to it, but they have a leadership program for high school students, and through that they gain like leadership skills. And then those students become the leaders for the after-school program where they have the elementary students come in. And so I got to work with the leadership program and with the elementary students, and I got to facilitate movement and like exercises and games and programming and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then in addition, because I was in North Central and it was primarily Indigenous peoples that I was working with, I also got to see like some of those social determinants of health at play. And so I kind of was trying to find something that would bring both of those elements in. Yeah.
Okay, great. And was it a valuable experience for you?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If I wasn't so busy now, I would like still be working at the after school program if I could.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. I developed like a lot of really meaningful relationships with the leaders and with the little ones. Learned a lot from Brian Lewis, who is the executive director. He's great. Yeah, all around amazing experience.
Okay. I don't know if Skyla can pick up, like I'm hearing noises right now upstairs. Some very masculine type activities going on up in the gym, dropping weights and so on. Anyway, okay, so you finished your field work, you finished your honors project, and you convocated. And when did you make the decision, I'm going to go into grad school?
As soon as I started the actual like research process of the honors, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I started my master's like right after. Actually, I think I started my first master's course before I convocated because I took it in May and then I convocated in April.
Yes.
Yeah.
It creates all kinds
Or
of
June, yeah.
complications
Yeah, it
for the
did.
people in charge.
Yeah.
Yes, she's done her degree, but no, she hasn't officially convocated. Yes, she should be able to start her degree program.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. It
Yeah.
reminds me of classic bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
Classic bureaucracy.
I remember like I had a scholarship, but I couldn't get it until I was registered. But I couldn't register until they had the paperwork that I was done my degree. But I couldn't get the paperwork that I was done my degree until after convocation. So it's like all these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
You would think we'd be able to just communicate with each other quite easily.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that. So you decided to go into your master's right away. What made you, other than you really like doing that, anything else that changed for you that in terms of your thinking about what you want to do? Because you started the conversation saying, I want to be a personal trainer. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. So while doing the honors, I started thinking about how could I do research for a job. So started looking into like what it takes to have an academic career. So that's what I'm pursuing right now. That's the goal. And obviously to get there, you have to do the master's, PhD. So that was just like the kind of automatic next step. And then in addition to that, my project left me with a lot of questions, my honors project, because I learned a lot about women's perceptions of the gender nature of gyms, but I didn't know anything about men's perceptions or other people in the space. So I was like, I can elaborate on this further with a master's. So that's kind of what I did.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit about your experience as a graduate student. What's that like? I mean, I think you're a full-time graduate student, so you're not doing this part-time. You're full-time. What's that look like? And
Like a day in the life kind of
sure.
situation. Yeah. Well, I have my workspace here, so I come in the morning. The nice thing is that I usually don't have anything right in the morning, so I can kind of show up whenever as long as I get my work done.
right, there's no life like the life of a graduate student,
Yeah.
I always say.
So usually show up about 10.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
but I end up having to work at home in the
After a
evening because of
protein
that.
bar.
Yeah, exactly. My that took lots of time, right? Yeah, my morning routine. Okay, yeah. Right now, I usually do some kind of work. Like right now, I'm working on an article, so I'm writing mostly in the morning, and then I have a teaching fellowship, so I'm instructing in the early afternoon. And so I go and teach, and then after that, I go and do my data collection. So I'm observing in the gym, so I go and sit up there and watch people and write things down. And then I go back to my office and take those notes and make them more detailed and put them, kind of transfer them from my iPad to my computer. And then I usually go home and have to do like something little, like something easy, like marking or something administrative of some kind.
Mind numbing.
Yeah, so something that I can leave to the end of the day and just like do while I'm tired. Yeah.
Don't tell the students.
Yeah, don't tell them that. I mean, I shouldn't say that.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you mentioned you're doing some teaching. What are you teaching this term?
I'm teaching KIN 101, Writing and Discourse for Academia.
Okay, and how's that?
I really enjoy it. I really like rules, and so I really like APA, and so I've really enjoyed teaching it, and I know that like the students are always like, why are we learning this? Like, why does it have to be so specific? I have a reasoning that I give them, but I enjoy being able to show them like this definitive set of rules, because to me, rules make it easier. It's like, oh, I just sit down, I set up my title page, and I don't have a blank page anymore, and I can get into my writing. And then in addition, I am kind of like passionate about writing in like an academic context.
Mm-hmm.
I find it like really satisfying, so it's kind of fun to be able to show that to younger undergrad students, and then also kind of like set the tone of the expectations, because it is like a first year, usually like first term course. So it's kind of nice to know that I have some kind of impact on like the culture of the undergrad community in terms of like the way that they approach their writing and assignments.
So do you have mostly first year students?
Yeah, mostly. Every once in a while I get like a fourth year or something that ends up being in there, but I don't know how they...
It's a little late for that.
Yeah, but usually, yes, first year.
Have you taught anything else here other than 101?
KIN 170, Lifestyle, Health, and Wellness as
Okay.
well.
And how's that?
Also love that one. It's great.
Okay.
Speaking of social determinants of health, that's like a big aspect of it, and I find it's really fun. Again, kind of setting the tone of the culture of like, a lot of people come in, I think, especially in the human kinetics side, very like medical model. We're here to like heal people, and every patient is going to be the perfect patient that is capable of doing X, Y, and Z that I give them. And I think it's kind of nice to be able to shift that narrative a little bit before they get into those classes that do have that mindset.
Yeah.
And kind of show like everybody's coming to this, every patient that comes to you is coming with a different set of social circumstances that are impacting their health and their ability to do their treatment and things of that nature.
Okay. What would you say, aside from getting to spend time on your project, what are some other benefits of being a grad student?
Well, kind of what I mentioned before, like the freedom of your schedule. Like generally it's pretty open. So like, for example, I have a dog at home, and it's pretty easy for me, like middle of the day, go home, take him for a walk, come back for a couple hours. In a normal job, that might not be the case. Gives you a little bit more time. If you aren't sure about what you want to do after school, you can have a little bit more time with something that you're really passionate about and see kind of what you're thinking about doing afterwards. I think the sense of community is really nice, like getting to know other grad students with very similar interests to you. Like even though they all have their niche specific thing they're researching, we all kind of have this interest of health or recreation or leisure or something. And so I feel like I've met people that I will be friends with like forever, because we already started with this very established, like shared value system, kind of like we care about the same things. So yeah, those are a few things.
Okay, good. Forever is a very long time.
Yeah, forever is a long time. But I have Jeanette. We have desks right next to each other, and yeah, she's a lifelong one for sure. I have others too, but
That's nice.
yeah.
Well, no, it is true. I don't disagree with you. And sometimes you lose touch with people as you go about your kind of career, but you always have this kind of connection that you can, when you see them again at a conference or somewhere like that, you kind of pick up sometimes where you left off. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly. We
very
have
cool.
this shared experience
Yeah.
that, yeah, regardless of if we lose contact, like she's got her and I have others, they know who they are, that are that'll be very close to my heart, even if we aren't even in contact.
Yeah. So I have two questions kind of left to wrap this up. First, but before I get there, what are your future plans after you finish your master's degree?
Yeah, so the plan is to start my PhD right after. Also here.
We'll have to work on FGSR about that.
Yeah, make sure that the transition's good. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, my plan is I think I should be done my master's April, and then I probably will take 4 months. I'll take the summer off this time.
That's okay.
Yeah. And then come back for the PhD in September.
That's right. Just make sure you convocate in May. And
Yeah.
not- or June, I guess it would
Yeah,
be.
make sure that I line that up correctly, yeah.
Okay, so that's great. So, two questions. If you're giving advice to high school students who are thinking about what they're going to do, what bit of advice would you give them?
I don't know if you'll love this answer, but
Wow.
I would say don't be scared to like take time off from school before going. I think like it's like in my personal experience, I went and I didn't have like the discipline to study the amount that I needed. I didn't have like any of those study skills. I also just I just like didn't know what I was doing entering the space. I was unsure about who I was, let alone like what I was going to do studying, exercise physiology. So I think don't be scared to take time off so that when you do go to school, it's for the right reasons, for the right topic, and you'll enjoy it a lot more because you know that you're there for the right reasons and for the right topic. And then also, I would say to not be scared to do an honors. So if you do, after high school, go into your undergrad, look for those opportunities, if you so choose, to go a little bit deeper into your program because it is really fulfilling. And I wouldn't have figured out how much I enjoy research and how passionate I am about the topic that I'm researching if I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, a little editorial comment
Yes,
from me,
please.
is that, and I tell students this when I see them at career fairs, they have this idea of what they want to do based on really a narrow, very small boundary area of experiences. They don't know much about themselves yet, and you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day. And many times your ideas about what you can do is I would say framed by your experiences, your lived experiences at that point in time. And I think the great thing about university is that you have the opportunity to live some new experiences that you would have never anticipated or expected. And it's a growth opportunity. It happened to me too when I was doing my graduate work, and certainly, I think I turned out okay. But I didn't really know I didn't know what I was going to do until I was about 30 years old. I think many parents. I'm a parent of 3 children. We sometimes think, well, you need to decide like right now what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that's not realistic because you don't know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And it's likely going to change as well because as you learn about yourself, you see new avenues or new pathways that you can explore. So anyway, yeah, I don't think that's bad advice.
Okay.
I think it's actually really good advice.
I do always say whenever I sense anxiety from someone about their future, and I always say, like, you have your entire life figured out. Like, it's never you can figure it out whenever. You don't need to do it right now. So, yeah, same sentiment.
Okay, one last question before we sign off, and that is the best thing about the U of R.
Best thing about the U of R.
shouldn't take this long.
No. I'm trying to pick the best thing. I feel like I could name a few.
Just one.
Just I know what but if it's just one, it's got to be the best.
Oh, wow.
I would say, like, okay, for example, we see here
Oh, there you go.
this beautiful view. I think like the community around the university itself and the community around it are really beautiful. Like Wascana's right down the road. Like I walk to school every day and I really enjoy like the feeling of the campus. So there's so many things, but that's one thing that comes to mind like right off the bat.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much. Well, thanks very much, Elise. I've enjoyed our conversation. I hope you've had fun. And thanks to producer Skyla. Say something, Skyla.
Hi.
And with that, we'll say see you until the next time.